dunes can be a deadly place for those who are unprepared. So with the release of Dune Awakening, I thought it best to share 15 top tips to get you started. And if there is anything that you feel I've missed, then please do help your fellow viewers and pop them in the comments below. So without further ado, let's jump straight into it. Now the first tip that we have is, in order to progress in Dune, you'll need to research better technology. This is very much tied to intel gathering, which can be found at the many settlements that are around the world. Each settlement's intel though can only be collected once, so make sure when you're looking at the map that you hover your cursor over the settlements. If there's intel available, you'll be able to see how many intel has been found. Take for example here, I haven't found any intel, so we know there is an intel cache ready to be collected at this particular settlement. Do this for each of the biomes or areas of the map that you unlock. Now one of the most important features is base building in Dune Awakening. There you will process resources and produce weapons and schematics to aid you in your quests. However, a base that hasn't been planned can spell doom. Make sure that there is a water source nearby for emergencies when you're starting out, as well as a selection of materials such as fuel cells so that you can quickly and easily fill up your generators to protect your base from other players. Speaking of water, if you're collecting dew with the Dew Reaper, do pay attention to the time of day that you're using it. Obviously you can't collect dew during the daylight hours. However, if you collect the water as soon as night falls, it's going to result in a lower harvest yield. So for best results, wait until late morning, just before the sun starts to rise, where you'll be able to gain a little bit more water for your pack. And collecting dew isn't the only way to harvest water in this game. You can of course extract blood and process it into water, and in desperate moments you can actually drink blood. However, this will lower your overall health, so use it sparingly. And to make collecting blood easier, one thing I do recommend doing is favoriting your blood extractor. This just makes it really quick and easy to extract blood and return to your default weapons loadout without having to cycle through everything trying to find the right items. During the day, sunstroke and dehydration will quickly kill you. As such, when building, do consider building at night, or place a wall facing the sun to provide you with at least some shade, so you can build without dehydrating every few minutes and having to go out and seek water. Due to the nature of Dune Awakening, it can be a rush to loot your enemies before other players in the non-PvP areas. But because the game continues to run even when menus are open, be really careful to only loot enemies once the area is clear from other hostile enemies. Even more so if you are in a PvP zone. And though there is PvP in Dune Awakening, at its heart Dune Awakening is more about working with others, so do make sure to join a guild or team up with some friends. More importantly, what you can then do is use the different classes and also specialize in different research so that you can get access to the better equipment sooner with your friends and trade between the group. Also, just as a heads up, I will be streaming Dune Awakening on twitch.tv/Totalxclipse. So if you're interested in joining me, why not jump over and say hi. Now some of the areas such as labs in Dune Awakening do have an assortment of enemies to work through. One notable one early in the game are the minigun characters. They're quite easy to kill once you get past their armor, but be really careful that you don't get stuck in long corridors, as they're going to be able to grind you down quite easily into small chunks of meat. You need to understand in this game the different enemy types that there are and the tactics that they employ so that you can stick to your strengths and kill them quickly. Also, while on the subject of labs, one thing to mention is that you may come across some secret doors behind bookcases, such as this yellow lit up bookcase in the first lab. So do keep an eye out, as there may be more loot lying around to take for yourself. Vehicles are incredibly useful in Dune Awakening, allowing you to cover great swathes of ground quickly, but they also have an inventory space, which means when collecting resources, it can be really useful to store your resources there so that you can go out and collect more. And do remember that the vehicles will take damage over time if left outside, so make sure to build a little garage or leave them somewhere in cover so they don't take damage when you're not using them. Suspension belts are some of the best equipment that you can get in Dune Awakening, but there are different types for different reasons. So make sure you use the right belt for the right job. Passive belts, for example, allow for softening your falls. Some allow you to jump higher, and with the use of propulsion, whether that's using grapples or just jumping, you can actually propel yourself further. And whilst on the subject of the grapple, you can freely swap out your skills at any point. So don't feel you have to stick with these skills that you've selected. If you fancy trying out a different playstyle, then do swap those skills out. Now, the use of equipment will lure sandworms to you, so do avoid using your shields in the dunes or the suspensor belts for that matter. And don't just drive about in the middle or run about the middle of the dunes, because it is going to attract those sandworms. Speaking of luring the sandworms, also be careful not to drive over Drumsand, which is in the second biome. If you do, you'll hear the percussion of the Drumsand, and that will, if you're not careful, lure those sandworms to you once again. And do remember, if the sandworm eats you, you will lose everything that you were holding, so do stay clear of it as much as possible. And if you're making journeys across two different biomes, I highly recommend grabbing a less precious loadout. For example, not using stuff such as your specialist schematic based items, just so that you can get over, set up a base, and then go and collect them once you're more comfortable with the journey. So there you are, guys. That's just over 15 tips to get you started in Dune Awakening. If you enjoyed the video, do hit the thumbs up, and if you're interested in a Dune Awakening base building deep dive, then do check out that video next, and let me know what you'd like me to cover in future videos for Dune Awakening. And don't forget to join me on Twitch if you want some Dune Awakening for the release. But special thanks, as always, does go to all of our incredible supporters on Patreon, most notably our Lunar Eclipse Patrons, Firefless, The Calamity, Ben, Star, and Seeker Kala, as well as our Blood Moon of the Day, which today is King Zoron. Until next time, as always, ciao for now.